Hey there, how there, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcoming you to yet another Cutter Degrassi video. And today we're going to be looking at a top 10. And it'll be the top 10 moments that made you fall out of love with a character. A couple weeks ago, Miss Mojo, on YouTube, did a video about top 30 TV characters who did something bad that made you not want to fall in love with them. That basically made you lose their trust in them. Like Rory Gilmore going to Yale and then acting like a spoiled brat and basically dropping out of Yale and becoming the thing that Lorelai was hoping she wouldn't be. And then Ted Mosby about it wasn't his love for Robin, it was the fact he dumped Victoria twice on her birthday and didn't even realize it. And there were a few other characters too. I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh yeah, Ross from Friends, because we were on a break. I mean, Rachel and Ross were broken up, and Ross thought that the relationship wasn't going to last long. That makes sense. Anyway, so this is the Degrassi version. I said the TV characters. I had prelim polls, which I did, and then got to 12 people. Well, top two people from each of the three polls got to go from 1 to 6, and the second two people, the third and fourth placers, went 7 to 12. So you got all this. So the two people who were kind of part of the 7 to 12 poll that did not make the list, well, missed the top 10, is Paige and JT. Paige, I said, for turning diva in the Degrassi Hollywood movie. A lot of people would think that Paige was basically more than bully and maybe insecure, especially putting Terry and Hazel in her shadow, in a sense. I think she was very insecure. Paige went through a lot of character arcs, including men ruining her in season 4. Basically, Dean got away with raping her, but she did get revenge by crashing Spinner's car into his car. Paige and Spinner basically on the outs because Spinner had eyes on Manny. Rick coming back to Degrassi, so she couldn't trust that. And Mr. Olander basically stringing her along and making her look like the victim. I mean, like the perpetrator of the relationship, but it was all him. And I think Snake was on Paige's side. And of course, turning to Diva in the Degrassi Hollywood movie. Well, Paige was just nothing but a dog walker. She was trying to get out of her reality star boss's shadow and failed. In a sense, basically pissed off the wrong people, although Paige and Marco did make up in Throwback Thursday. And JT for blowing Toby off. I think that JT was a decent character, but he just basically shooed Toby away for fame and fortune with Paige's clique and all that. Toby was a fiercely loyal friend, and Manny told JT so in season 4, saying that, if JT had not blew Toby off for Danny, aka Liberty's brother, then Toby probably would not have been easily coerced into being friends with Rick. JT realizes it and stays with Toby until his untimely passing a few years later. All right, here's the list. Number 10 is Hatzalakos for her coddling of Peter seasons 5 and 6. So Hatzalakos was a decent teacher and all that. In season 4, she got the job of principal once Radich was booted for his lack of awareness towards the Rick situation. I mean, letting Rick in the school was terrible and all that. But he was like, he kind of had no choice because with no criminal charges, what could he do? But people didn't believe him. And also him blowing Rick off. I know that was terrible too, but I mean, letting him into the school was worse than blowing Rick off before in Time Standstill Part 1. Of course, the aftermath didn't help him. He didn't do anything to help the school out, it seemed, and tried to squash Dracula and all that, and got bit. And then Hatzalakos was the principal, but in season 5 and 6, she was at her worst, especially with Peter. Peter, of course, distributed Manny's topless video around the school and all that because Manny wouldn't go out with him. And, at the end of that episode, after Emma helps Manny out after realizing what the hell she did wrong, Hatzalakos talks to Peter and all that. And then they both are stunned that that Peter is her son. It doesn't matter that Peter's dad basically also coddles Peter by getting him scot free in season 6 after that street race thing and putting Sean in prison. Until Emma realizes Peter was the bad guy and helps Sean out. I mean, Peter should have been expelled for what he did in season 5, point blank. But, Hatzlock was trying to keep Peter, be in Peter's thing. And where was the zero tolerance policy? Huh? Huh? I guess you probably wanted to do it for season 4. Number 9 is Snake cheating on Spike with Hatzlakos. Well, Hatzlakos was on another deep end. Now, Snake was very loyal towards Spike and all that. They had a relationship. Emma was not too happy about it, thinking that why would my mom date my teacher? I mean, a teenager would think that way too. But anyhow, Snake stayed with Spike. And then in season 5, when he went through his midlife crisis about a motorcycle, Hatzalakos also rides a hog. And so basically they fell in love with the bike. And then when Emma was trying to hide her relationship with Peter, they both bump into Hatzalakos and Snake kissing each other. Emma can't help but to tell Spike about Snake's cheating and all that. Snake is kicked out, mostly to do with the fact that he tried to force Emma to stay quiet. Snake does win Spike back, thankfully, and fixes the problem. Of course, Emma still has her eating disorder, but regardless of that, yeah, that was really out of control for Snake. Okay, so I'm changing a little bit. So the two lowest numbers in the 1 to 6 polls will now be 7 and 8. Right? Am I going to go with that? No, sorry. Okay, so number 6 in the 1 to 6 poll is actually going to drop to number 8. Okay, number 8 is Ellie turning into a pick-me girl. Ellie was okay as a character and all that. We got to know her better with her dad being a colonel in the army going to Afghanistan, when Afghanistan was a thing, and Ellie's mom becoming an alcoholic, Ellie trying to take care of her and herself, and just couldn't do it. And then starts to use a compass to do something to her arms. You get the point. And it was so bad that 3 Montreal teenagers did that, and CTV had to make a public apology. But the fact is that, Paige at least helped Ellie out with her problems, and Ellie knew she had to get help. She was with Sean before Sean left for what's all got to do with PTSD in the Rick situation. Ellie was trying her best to stay out of trouble, but she just needed someone around her and all that. She moved back in with her mom, and then she was trying to find a guy that likes her, especially with Craig. Her pick me energy was terrible in season 8 when she wanted to be near Craig, but Craig had a girlfriend already. So Ellie decides to walk into the Pacific Ocean drunk. Fortunately, though, Craig and Marco see her and catch her. Or it's too late. Poor girl. Number 7 is Tristan for blaming Maya for the Yates situation. So Tristan gets bumped up a little bit. One spot. So yeah, so Tristan gets jumped to number 7. So Tristan was okay as a character. He wore a fat suit because, yeah, the character had to wear a fat suit. It was like, well, was that fat loss the real actor? Nope. So anyway, Tristan became enamored with Miles and all that. Couldn't get to Miles because of Maya. And then he actually fell in love with the drama teacher, Mr. Yates. And Mr. Yates had creepy energy and all that. However, Tristan still wanted to be with Yates. And Maya told Snake about the problems. And Snake told Tristan about this, saying that I will help you and all that. And Tristan tries to get Snake off his case. Then he realizes Maya was the perpetrator and yells at her, saying that, why are you breaking me up? You have plenty of guys to be with. And Maya's like, no, I was trying to protect you. Of course, she still had the aftermaths of the whole Cam situation. She failed to help. But Tristan basically blew Maya off And season 14, they got back together in the worst way possible because he made her apologize. Even though Tristan was given the facts that Yates was grooming Winston, Tristan should have been like, oh my God, and I yelled at Maya. No, Tristan didn't apologize to Maya. He made Maya apologize to him. Number 6 is Miss O dealing with Sav. Miss O was okay as a character and all that. Not a lot of people loved her, but she started to have a strange relationship with Sav, which was really terrible and all that. Sav was 18, so technically he was the age of majority, if you will. But still, it was wrong for her to get with him and for Sav to actually be involved in the relationship with Miss O. I mean, yeah, Anya basically was terrible, lying about things to Sav. I mean, she wanted to keep the relationship. Anya had the whole cleanliness thing to her. I mean, she was basically Holly J's shadow for a few years until she finally broke out. But she basically was upset that Sav would be with Holly J. But remember, Anya was told to fake a pregnancy by Holly J so that Holly J could win the student presidency, which failed. Sav won. But anyway, yeah, maybe, and, Sav and his Muslim upbringing and all that, maybe he was feeling the pressures of his arranged marriage and all that. Arranged bride, and Miss O wanted to help out. At the end of the day, Sav graduated. Miss O was probably kicked to the curb at Degrassi because I don't think we ever saw her after the whole story. That's the whole story arc. Number 5 is Emma. There's been, and with plenty of favorite moments. There's not basically just one with Emma. There's a plethora of them. I mean, if you like Emma in season 1, we're turned off by her dealing with Manny and the cheerleading and all that. I mean, you can kind of blame her for the whole Liberty situation with Armstrong, but Emma was just concerned about Liberty, and besides, she was catfished. So yeah, so Emma upset with Manny being a cheerleader and being near Paige and all that. Season 2, you probably liked her, but then you didn't like her whole storyline with almost ruining Spike and Snake's wedding when Spike wanted to abort baby Jack. I mean, I don't blame Emma because she would like a new sibling, and it didn't help that Spike told her that I won't have another mistake, and Emma went off the rails, and then all that. Of course, people probably would not hate her for her dealing with Radish and fight for your rights. Both sides lost. Season 3, you probably hated her because of the thing with Manny and all that. Season 4, you pretty much hate her because of her trying to prevent Liberty and Chris from going out with each other because she thought that it would embarrass her. And it's like, how? I mean, people don't like your causes and all that, but you still do it. And then, of course, maybe you do kind of like, but I think season 5 is when things kind of dropped off. And that was with being with Peter. Emma wanted Peter desperately because, Sean proved her emotional trailer park, as she said at the start of season 5. And she was probably trying to avoid her feelings towards Sean and all that. And when Manny is victimized by Peter's thing, Manny has to live with Emma because her parents were not too happy with her promiscuity. I mean, from the Philippines, they're kind of a, what do you call it? Close knit, but a little tight, uptight. Nevertheless, Emma still goes out with Peter behind Manny's back and finally has to admit it. Fortunately, though, Emma and Peter are okay by Manny. Unfortunately, though, Sean pops back in, and I think Sean was a plot device to get rid of Emma and Peter's relationship, and that was good. Yeah, Emma pissed a lot of people off with her stuff after season 5. It seemed that it's from one extreme to the other with her. Number 4, and I have to break a tie for third. Number 4 is Jane cheating on Spinner with Declan. Jane was a decent character. We found out that she wanted to join the boys' football team because she played rugby and it shouldn't be any different. And after all, rugby's done without pads. So anyway, She does that. Of course, the chef and many of the players on the team don't want her to join and all that and try to force her out, but Jane refuses to, and the team accepts her, except for a few. I'm talking to you, Derek. And then we find out that Jane has trauma with her dad because her dad sexually molested her, and Lucas was none the wiser. But then Lucas finally opened his eyes, especially with the fact that Jane's dad, their dad, was about close to Izzy. So you know, we all thought that this was going to be the point that Lucas wins out and finally does great. And then the next episode, poof, he's gone. No mentions at all. And then in the Degrassi Takes Manhattan movie in season 9, Jane goes to New York with Declan and Holly J and all that, right? Well, she goes to New York. She basically has a thing. Yeah, with Declan. No, Jane didn't cheat on Spinner with Declan. Yeah, technically she did. And then Spinner was upset by everything, especially with the dot burned up because of a sandwich maker that he told Emma not to use. Remember, Emma wanted not to use it, but Jane and Manny pressured her into it. So anyway, Jane heads to New York and goes out with this drummer guy and feels something's up. And then Jane finds out that Spinner and Emma were going to get something going with each other. Were engaged and got married. So Jane tries to ruin Spinner's remarriage with Emma. And, you know, she kind of does. But then Manny pops in and told Jane that Spinner should be happy. I mean, I don't think Spinner and Emma were supposed to be a couple and all that. Number 3 is Zoe for Degrassi News, Point Blank. I actually thought that it would be number 1 or 2, to be honest with you, but you'll see the whole stuff at the end. So Zoe with Degrassi News, she was a bad character in a sense in season 13. Trying to string Maya along, got Maya to retaliate with that song. Say what you want, but Maya, if she had avoided the death threat in that song, I think that Principal Simpson would have helped her out. But there was a death threat. You can't do that. And Maya could have easily been in deeper trouble. She could have been expelled. She didn't see that. She just saw Snake for being a prick. So anyway, Zoe then gets raped by Luke Baker and Neil Martin. And she goes through her problems. She didn't want to testify in her own trial, but then she realizes she has to and basically tells the jury that if you let these guys go, it's going to set a double standard that, celebrities, quote unquote, ask for it. Girls ask for it. And then they both get exposed to juvie for a few years. And Zoe seemed to be likable. And then season 14, for some strange reason, she wanted to be on the Spirit Squad, but Becky said no because of the distractions with her and all that. I mean, Becky has a fair point, but after all, Becky did help Zoe out with the trial. But Zoe gets Becky to lose focus, gets to be captain, and basically forces the cheerleaders to oomph chat for money for new uniforms. What was wrong with the uniforms they had? So basically, Zoe used a lot of manipulation and all that the girls just try their best, but they also know they can't get under Zoe's wrath. So he basically decides finally, after being talked to in Firestarter, to confess everything. And then her lawyer basically makes her do community service so that maybe the judge goes easy on her. And we all kind of knew that Zoe was trying to get control of her body back because of her being deflowered, if you will. So practically that was just terrible. And the worst part was that it seemed that she got off scot-free because, next class, there's never any mention of her potentially being in trouble and all that. Next class basically changed everything from the Degrassi universe, I must say. But it just was terrible. Number 2 is Craig for stringing along Manny and Ashley. Craig was okay. I mean, season 2, we loved Craig. We saw Craig's home life and that his father was abusive towards him for almost the littlest thing and all that. And Craig needed to escape and all that, and his infatuation with Angie actually made sense because after Craig plays chicken with a train, Sean and Emma tell Joey about these things, that Craig's dad is the problem. And then Emma finds out some stuff, and the pieces come together. Craig's mom, Julia, left Craig and Albert, aka his dad, to be with Joey, and that's who Joey references Julia dying, and he's by himself. He's a widower. So Craig and Angie had the connection because Craig is Angie's stepbrother and all of that. And it's possible that not Rick's dad, sorry, Craig's dad uses Craig as a punching bag to deal with the fact that Julia left him and all that. I wonder if he was abusive to Julia and Craig before Julia left. Well, obviously, because why would Julia leave Albert? So anyway, yeah, and Craig's story was big and all that. We liked him. And then he decided to get into a love triangle with Manny and Ashley and was trying everything possible to make sure that both girls didn't know about him. But he fails miserably. They both break up with him. He cries and cries and cries. And then Joyce says that, he had something done with him. He knows the feeling because, with Caitlin and Tessa and school's out. But then, Craig ends up impregnating Manny. Ashley blurts it out to everyone. I mean, hell have no fury like a woman scorned. I think Ashley could have been more discreet, but, she was upset that Craig was with Manny. And then Ashley, for some stupid reason, well, Ashley does that song to get under Craig's skin. And then Craig does a sappy song and wins Ashley back. Ashley had no right to take Craig back. And no one wanted him to have her. I was like, what the heck? Well, Craig couldn't have Manny. Well, Craig wanted to be with Manny and be with Manny's kid because, after all, Craig didn't tip his hand that he didn't really have family. He didn't really have a mom or dad anymore. Joey doesn't really treat like a dad and all that. Yeah, Craig could have said that probably to get under Manny's sympathy. But yeah, Craig would not stop stringing along girls, especially Manny, for many seasons. So yeah, he kept doing it. And number one, I kind of figured this would be number one, is Spinner for blaming Jimmy for the paint and feathers thing. Spinner was kind of a bully. Everyone knew that. And I think you knew that too. But the simple fact is that Spinner wasn't really that bad as of a character. Like, he did some bad stuff, but he tried to redeem himself. In season 4, he was terrible. Not just with, dumping off Paige for Manny and all that, but for what he did in the whole Rick situation. Everyone knows about Rick coming back to the school, and the students were not happy with Raj doing absolutely nothing to help him out, so they did their Orange Ribbon campaign and all that. And what Emma's role was. But yeah, Spinner's role was big. Spinner didn't want Rick back at the school. After all, Spinner and Paige were the ones who found Terry with her head smacked across the rock and bleeding. And Spinner wanted to go after Rick for what he did to Terry. Spinner had every good reason to be part of the whole thing, anti-Rick thing. And then, there was a bully group, and then the bully group shrunk to have just Spinner, Jay, and Alex. Jimmy was a bully in Time Stand Still Part 1, but then Rick tells him all about the facts that now that Toby's getting hurt, that now they have another target. And Jimmy softens up, and basically Spinner, Jay, and Alex don't like that. It's one bit. I can't blame them. But I think in essence, the paint and feathers happened. Spinner stupidly decides to brag about his crime to Jimmy. He could have easily kept quiet. And then Spinner realizes his mistake. And of course, Spinner also gets caught by Radish in that deleted scene. He clucks at Rick and then has to talk to Radish at 3:30. And that's when Radish makes the ill-fated decision to let Rick go home and get under Snake's skin. Snake's skin. But then, of course, we see the scene that Spinner tells Jay, oh my God, Raj knows. And then Jay convinces Spinner to blame Jimmy for everything. And, they think they're off the hook. And then, of course, Rick takes his gun, shoots Jimmy, almost shoots Emma, but thankfully Sean saves the day. And then Spinner is racked with guilt. But Jay convinces him not to go anywhere because, either outcome, he was your best friend. And, I think Jay was hoping that Jimmy had died because, then everything would not come out in the open. Spinner tried his best to keep it shut down, but then when Jimmy comes back to school after leaving the hospital and, Degrassi having to be wheelchair accessible, Spinner can't help but tell the truth to Jimmy. Say what you want, but he did the right thing by telling the truth. Because if it came out and everything, he was fucked. So then, of course, the school ostracizes Spinner before Spinner finally tells Hatzalakos everything I think she knew, and she was waiting for Spinner to come clean. Spinner basically implicates Jay, which I think he needed to do, and he got expelled. He tries to come back then a few episodes later and is told he has to do summer school because he loses his year. And then he's like, it's not fair. And Hatzalakos says, it's not fair that you're indirectly responsible for Rick dying. I'm like, good grief, Hatzalakos. You should blame him for Jimmy being in a wheelchair, yes. But for Rick dying, that just doesn't work out that way. Spinner wants to burn the school, but Jay actually prevents him from doing that, saying that this is not the way you get your friends back. And then season 5, he has to go through that redemption song. Fortunately, at the end of season 5, Jimmy starts talking to him, and Spinner got his redemption. I mean, Spinner did the right thing by waiting and wanting. He wanted to talk to Jimmy and apologize for everything. But yeah, it lost a lot of people. Spinner's love and admiration. Although he did make a redemption arc and make people love him. So what's better not to like? Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond at Duke.